Hey guys, like I mentioned with the video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to talk about the iPhone 7 Plus going into 2023 and if this phone is still worth it, if you're still using it, if you're thinking about upgrading from it, and also give you a comparison to the latest iPhone 14 series, how the iPhone 7 Plus compares to it. So let's dive right into it. As I mentioned here, the iPhone 7 here, it's a plus version. There's also the iPhone 7, the regular version. So this is the bigger size body phone, which again is a 5.5-inch display here. It was released back in September of 2016. It's kind of hard to believe, but it's a little over 6-year phone. Now later this year in September, of course, it's going to make 7 years. And for that amount of time, there's a lot of things that has changed in the iPhone ecosystem here. But let's really just quickly go over some of the stuff about the iPhone 7 Plus that makes this phone pretty interesting here. As you can see here, I mentioned here 5.5-inch display. You got the Touch ID here. You got a front-facing 7-megapixel camera, and if you turn it back here, you'll see this beautiful rose gold color, which is a unique color that was introduced on the iPhone, which you don't see much of now. You got two 12-megapixel camera. You got this aluminum body to it, and then these rounded bezel, which are really beautiful, and these set of speakers, which really makes the stereo really good for this phone. And you see here on the phone physically has a physical SIM card, which is important because in the US model, the iPhone 14 series no longer has a physical SIM card. You do have to use an eSIM card. So those are some of the differences and some of the unique things about the iPhone 7 Plus here. Again, one of the beautiful phones that we've seen in terms of size and was a popular device when it did come out here. Now, it is equipped with A10 Fusion chip on it with about 3 gigs of RAM, which again 3 gigs is pretty good comparing to some of the newer phones which have double the amount of RAM, which is 6 gig, but it still delivers pretty much a good sort of power. And when it comes to storage, the iPhone 7 Plus here does start with very limited 32 gig, which nowadays seems like nothing compared to the iPhone 14 lineup, which starts at 128 gig at the minimum. But you do get this phone, you could get it if you wanted to, or with 256 gig, which is the max capacity. Now, the original price for the iPhone 7 started around $649 plus taxes, so you're paying around $700 for this phone when it originally came out. But now the iPhone price has dropped. You can get this phone for under $150, but Apple no longer sells it, so you have to go on sites like eBay or Amazon, which you can get this phone for around, as you mentioned, $150 or even less, depending on if you look around. So pretty cheap compared to the original price for it. Now, let's talk about the other thing about the battery life on this phone. So the battery life is a huge battery. When you think about the size and the mAh, there is a 2900 mAh battery on this iPhone, but that doesn't mean that it gets like a lot of video playback time, which is about 14 hours of video playback when the battery is 100%. Of course, over time, if you used it like this one, as you can see, it dropped to 80%, so you're not going to get those 14 hours. Now, if you compare it to the new iPhone 14, which you're probably going to be comparing to the iPhone 14 Plus, which is really interesting because Apple brought back that Plus size phone, which of course the 14 Plus is much bigger. It has a 6.5-inch display here, and interesting enough, the battery on the 14 Plus gives you about 26 hours of video playback. Again, almost 12 hours more than the iPhone 7 Plus, just to give you a comparison on what you get on a newer iPhone 14 Plus lineup here. Now, the iPhone 7 Plus here, when it comes to camera, this is the very first time we did see dual 12 megapixel camera on the back, which allows the phone to take some really good photos. It even has the portrait mode, as you can see here, but only one settings here. You don't have all those other options that we get, and it can record, as you can see here, in 4K from 1080p, which is pretty good. But other things that it's missing compared to a new phone, like cinematic mode, you don't have that photographic style, night mode, action mode, macro mode, and the micro mode. All of those feature upgrades that happen over time aren't available on the iPhone 7 Plus, but nonetheless, the iPhone 7 Plus still, for an average user that doesn't care too much about photography and those little minor details, the iPhone 7 Plus camera again can get you by pretty well. Now, let's talk about the next thing, which is going to be important for this phone and probably a deal breaker for this phone, is the software on this phone. So as you can see here, it says iOS 16 preview here, but unfortunately, the iPhone 7 Plus or the iPhone 7 does not or is not supported on iOS 16. It only gets iOS 15. That's the latest update you can get, which was released a year before, and you can pretty much take advantage of most of the features on iOS 15. Even on the settings, if you try to update to iOS 16 by going into setting update, you won't be able to. You'll be getting this message. As you can see, the latest update is 15.7.3. So there's going to be software security updates and bug fixes that will come, but on iOS 15 it will never go up to iOS 16, unfortunately. But that doesn't make the phone completely useless. As you can see here, most of the apps we have here, popular apps, are able to download and run without any issue. Now, you might be sometimes downloading the older version if an app has a new version that requires iOS 16, but for the most part, all of your popular apps for social media to entertainment to school or work, you'll be able to kind of download it. As you can see here, we have YouTube up and running, your music streaming apps, again, your video streaming apps for your popular favorite show. You'll see all of that, pretty much compatible, no doubt there here. It takes a moment or two because it is a phone that aged. Now, it's over 6 years, so expect to kind of wait whenever you open up an app. As you can see here, when I open up an app, generally it should open up right away, but you'll see here, most of the time, you're going to have to give it a moment, sometimes up to 5-6 seconds, even 10 seconds we've seen on some of the apps that are meant to be, heavy resource constraint on the phone. But when it comes to things like gaming, you'll see here you can play games from 2D to 3D games, but wouldn't recommend playing any heavy graphic game that are meant to be played on the console just because the hardware isn't enough to support that. But if you're playing lightweight games, like simple games that don't require too much energy and power from the phone, you'll be able to pretty much game without any issue. So now bring it back to the question, is the iPhone 7 Plus worth it going into 2023? Well, simply to put it, there's a couple things you're going to be looking at when you kind of try to answer that question. Is that the iPhone 7 Plus here, it no longer gets the update. So in terms of update, of course, it's sort of out of date or sort of end of life here. So in 2023, of course, you can use it, but it's going to be very limited to simply if you're looking for a phone to do things just simply for calling and texting, that's fine. Even light browsing, you'll see here we can browse and do all of that, which again gets the basic functionality done, which again, if you're looking for just for that, and even for some apps, if you're just looking for the basic app without really trying to spend a lot of money to go those feature updates like the camera updates, a bigger battery and more battery life, the iPhone 7 Plus, again, for just under $150, which is a sweet spot for someone that's looking to just not spend too much or looking for a budget friendly phone. I would probably recommend getting an iPhone 8 Plus if you're looking to be very budget friendly, but a phone that will last you a little bit longer. But the iPhone 7 Plus, if you're using it and then think about upgrading it, you can probably go buy it. But if you're thinking about buying the iPhone 7 Plus, I wouldn't recommend it personally. Go with the iPhone 8 Plus at the minimum if you're looking to save money, but still have a supported version, because iPhone 8 and the 8 Plus are supported on iOS 16. So that's kind of our thought of it. Budget-friendly phone that's going to end of its life will get you by for the basic stuff in 2023, but looking ahead, it's probably not a phone that you should consider any longer. We want to hear from you guys. What's your thought on the iPhone 7 Plus here? Leave a comment in the comment section, and while you're at it, please make sure that like and subscribe button. We will see you guys next time.